Imagine waking up tomorrow, and it's -40 degrees outside. Your phone is dead. No electricity, no heating, no grocery stores. And this isn't just a winter storm. This is your life, every day, for the next 10,000 years. This was reality for our ancestors. The Ice Age wasn't just cold weather, it was Earth's ultimate survival test. And somehow, they didn't just survive, they created art, they built cities, they invented technologies that modern scientists say should be impossible. The question isn't how they stayed warm, the question is, were they smarter than us? Tonight, as you drift off to sleep in your warm bed, let me tell you a story that will change everything you thought you knew about human survival, intelligence, and the incredible ingenuity that flows through your very DNA. This isn't just ancient history, this is the story of you, and where your unstoppable human spirit truly began. So get comfortable, close your eyes, and prepare to discover the most incredible survival story ever told. How prehistoric shelters kept cavemen warm during freezing winters, the truth that's rewriting human history. Let's begin. Chapter 1, The Mystery of Survival. Picture this. It's -40 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind is howling at 60 miles per hour. Snow has been falling for 3 straight months. This isn't just winter, this is the Ice Age, and you're standing exactly where your ancestors once stood, facing the most brutal climate Earth has seen in millions of years. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. They didn't just survive this frozen hellscape, they thrived. They laughed, they loved, they created art, and they built shelters so ingenious that modern architects are still trying to figure out how they did it. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to discover will completely change how you think about human survival and ingenuity. And drop a comment below telling me, if you had to survive an Ice Age winter with just stone tools, what would be your biggest fear? Now here's where things get controversial. For over a century, scientists believed our Ice Age ancestors were primitive cave dwellers who barely scraped by. But recent archaeological discoveries have shattered that myth completely. These weren't cavemen cowering in dark holes, they were sophisticated engineers who built structures that would make modern survivalists weep with envy. The evidence is so shocking that it's divided the scientific community. Some researchers argue that we've been completely wrong about prehistoric human intelligence. Others claim the discoveries are too advanced to be real. But the bones don't lie, and what they're telling us is absolutely incredible. Let me paint you a picture of what we're really talking about. Imagine a structure built entirely from mammoth bones, not just any bones, but specifically selected ribs, skulls, and tusks arranged in perfect geometric patterns. These weren't random piles of remains, these were engineered masterpieces that incorporated principles of physics, thermodynamics, and architecture that we thought weren't discovered until thousands of years later. One site in Ukraine contains what researchers call the impossible dwelling, a mammoth bone hut that's so perfectly constructed it maintains a temperature difference of over 60 degrees between inside and outside. Think about that. Without central heating, without insulation as we know it, without any modern technology whatsoever, these people created climate-controlled environments that would rival anything we build today. But here's where it gets really wild. The mathematical precision of these structures suggests they understood complex engineering principles. The angles of the bone placement, the spacing between supports, the ventilation systems, everything points to a level of sophistication that challenges everything we thought we knew about prehistoric intelligence. And this raises some uncomfortable questions. If they were this advanced, what else don't we know about them? What technologies did they develop that we've lost? What knowledge died with them that we're still trying to rediscover? Some researchers have proposed a controversial theory. that we've been looking at human evolution all wrong. Maybe intelligence didn't gradually develop over time. Maybe our Ice Age ancestors were just as smart as we are, but circumstances forced them to focus their genius on survival rather than space travel and smartphones. This isn't just ancient history we're talking about. Climate change is making extreme weather more common. Modern survival experts are actually studying these prehistoric shelters to understand how humans can adapt to rapidly changing environments. The techniques developed 20,000 years ago might be exactly what we need for the future. If you're fascinated by this blend of ancient wisdom and modern science, you'll love what we're about to explore. Hit that like button if you're ready to discover secrets that have been buried under ice for millennia. The story we're about to tell isn't just about staying warm. It's about the moment when human beings refused to be victims of their environment and decided to become masters of it instead. It's about innovation born from desperation, community forged in the crucible of survival, and the incredible ingenuity that lies dormant in all of us until we absolutely need it. Coming up next, we're going to examine archaeological evidence so controversial that it's split the scientific community in half. We'll explore bone structures that shouldn't exist, heating systems that seem impossibly advanced, and discoveries that are forcing us to completely rewrite human prehistory. Chapter 2: Archaeological Secrets and Debates. The year was 1965 when archaeologist Ivan Pidoplichko made a discovery in Ukraine that would shake the scientific world to its core. What he found wasn't just another prehistoric campsite, it was evidence of engineering capabilities that weren't supposed to exist for another 15,000 years. The site, known as Mezierik, contained not one, not two, but 4 massive structures built entirely from mammoth bones. But here's what made scientists lose their minds. The mathematical precision was absolutely perfect. We're talking about geometric arrangements that require understanding of load distribution, thermal dynamics, and structural engineering. Now, this is where the controversy explodes. Traditional archaeologists insisted these were just lucky accidents, random bone piles that happened to work. But a growing number of researchers are saying that's impossible. The evidence suggests intentional design that rivals modern architecture. Let me blow your mind with some specific numbers. The largest structure at Mezierik used exactly 385 mammoth bones, arranged in a specific pattern that maximizes structural integrity while minimizing heat loss. The entrance tunnel angles downward at precisely 15 degrees, the exact angle needed to create a cold trap that prevents heat from escaping. This level of precision doesn't happen by accident, but here's where it gets really controversial. Some bones at the site show evidence of being deliberately shaped and modified using techniques that we thought weren't invented until the Bronze Age. Tool marks on skulls suggest they were being carved and fitted like puzzle pieces. This implies a level of planning and technical skill that completely contradicts our understanding of Stone Age capabilities. If you're enjoying these mind-bending revelations, smash that like button and let me know in the comments, what's the most impressive thing you've ever built with your own hands? Dr. Olga Soffer from the University of Illinois has spent decades studying these sites, and her conclusions are explosive. She argues that these weren't primitive shelters at all, but sophisticated architectural achievements that demonstrate advanced understanding of physics and engineering. Her research suggests that Ice Age humans were conducting controlled experiments in construction techniques, testing different configurations until they achieved optimal results. This raises some huge questions that the scientific community is still wrestling with. If they had this level of technical knowledge, what else were they capable of? Were there other technologies that we haven't discovered yet? Are we underestimating prehistoric human intelligence across the board? The debate has gotten so heated that it's split archaeologists into two camps. The traditionalists maintain that we shouldn't attribute modern thinking to ancient people, that these achievements must have simpler explanations. The revisionists argue that we've been condescending to our ancestors, assuming they were less intelligent than us when the evidence clearly shows otherwise. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Similar structures have been found across Eastern Europe and Russia, but each site shows unique innovations and improvements. This suggests that knowledge was being shared across vast distances, that there were networks of communication and technological exchange that we never suspected existed. The Kostienki site in Russia contains what might be the most advanced prehistoric dwelling ever discovered. Built around 22,000 years ago, it features a double-wall construction system that creates insulating air pockets, a technique that wasn't officially invented until the 1800s. The structure also includes a sophisticated drainage system that channels melting snow away from the foundation. But here's the kicker that's driving some scientists absolutely crazy. Carbon dating of the construction materials suggests these buildings were occupied and maintained for over 1,000 years. That means they weren't temporary shelters, they were permanent installations that were continuously improved and upgraded across dozens of generations. This level of long-term planning and maintenance implies social structures and cultural continuity that we didn't think existed in the Ice Age. It suggests communities that were stable enough to invest in permanent architecture, sophisticated enough to maintain complex structures, and organised enough to pass down technical knowledge across centuries. Some researchers have proposed that these sites represent humanity's first cities, permanent settlements that supported large populations through advanced technology and social organisation. If true, this would push back the timeline of human civilization by over 10,000 years. The implications are staggering. If Ice Age humans were building permanent settlements with advanced architecture, what does that say about their social organisation, their economic systems, their cultural sophistication? We might be looking at complex civilizations that we never knew existed. Coming up next, we're going to dive deep into the specific engineering techniques that made these structures possible. We'll explore the controversial biomimicry theories, examine the thermal management systems that seem impossibly advanced, and investigate the mathematical principles that govern their construction. Trust me, what you're about to learn will make you question everything you thought you knew about human technological development. Chapter 3: The Engineering Genius Hidden in Bones. Prepare to have your mind completely blown. What I'm about to show you will revolutionize how you think about prehistoric human intelligence. The engineering principles embedded in these mammoth bone structures are so advanced that modern architects are studying them to improve contemporary building techniques. Let's start with the most controversial discovery of all: the thermal management systems. At the Dolní Věstonice site in Czech Republic, researchers found evidence of what can only be described as prehistoric central heating. I'm not kidding. These 26,000-year-old structures incorporated heat distribution networks that channeled warm air through underground passages, creating consistent temperatures throughout the entire dwelling. Here's what's absolutely mind-boggling. The system works on the same principles as modern radiant heating. Hot stones were placed in carefully calculated positions to create convection currents that circulated warm air through the structure. The mathematical precision required to design such a system is staggering. These people understood thermodynamics at a level that we didn't officially achieve until the Industrial Revolution. But wait, it gets even more incredible. The bone selection for these structures wasn't random at all. Researchers have discovered that mammoth ribs were specifically chosen based on their curvature, radius, and density. Femur bones were positioned to maximize load-bearing capacity. Skulls were arranged to create optimal airflow patterns. This level of material science knowledge shouldn't have existed for another 20,000 years. If you're as amazed by this ancient genius as I am, hit that subscribe button and help us reach 100,000 subscribers. Also, share this video with anyone who thinks our ancestors were primitive. They need to see this evidence. Dr. Brian Fagan from UC Santa Barbara has spent years analysing the structural engineering of these dwellings, and his conclusions are revolutionary. He argues that Ice Age humans developed construction techniques that were actually superior to many modern approaches. The organic architecture they created was more sustainable, more efficient, and more adaptable than contemporary building methods. Here's the controversial part that's dividing scientists. Some researchers believe these structures incorporated biomimicry principles thousands of years before we officially recognized this concept. The curved bone arrangements mirror the structural systems found in animal skeletons, suggesting that prehistoric humans studied anatomy to inform their architectural designs. The evidence is compelling. At the Pushkari site in Ukraine, bone arrangements follow the exact same load distribution patterns found in mammoth spinal columns. The structural supports are positioned to mimic the stress-bearing configurations of living bone tissue. This isn't coincidence. It's sophisticated engineering based on biological observation and analysis. But here's where it gets really wild. Some structures show evidence of modular construction techniques. Components were prefabricated at separate locations and then assembled at the building site. This implies project management skills, logistical planning, and coordinated workforce organization that we associate with modern construction projects. The Mezin site in Ukraine contains what researchers call the impossible roof, a dome structure that spans over 20 feet without any internal supports. The engineering required to create such a span using only mammoth bones and primitive tools is so complex that modern engineers struggle to replicate it even with contemporary materials and techniques. Computer modeling of these structures has revealed something absolutely astounding. The bone arrangements create natural frequency damping that makes the buildings incredibly stable in high winds. The flexible joints between bones allow the entire structure to sway without breaking, a principle that wasn't incorporated into modern architecture until we learned about earthquake engineering in the 20th century. This raises some profound questions about knowledge transfer and technological development. How did prehistoric humans discover these advanced engineering principles? Were they conducting systematic experiments? Did they have testing methodologies that we haven't recognized? The evidence suggests a level of scientific thinking that completely contradicts our assumptions about Stone Age mentality. Some researchers have proposed that these communities included specialized architects and engineers, individuals who dedicated their entire lives to perfecting construction techniques. The sophistication of the structures implies professional specialization and technical education systems that we didn't think existed until much later in human history. Here's the most controversial theory of all. Some scientists argue that these structures represent lost technology that was actually superior to many modern approaches. The organic materials, the biological design principles, the sustainable construction methods, all of this suggests technological pathways that civilization abandoned in favor of less efficient but more industrializable alternatives. The thermal efficiency of these mammoth bone dwellings is particularly impressive. Computer simulations show that they maintained interior temperatures 40 to 50 degrees warmer than outside conditions while using minimal fuel. Modern buildings with advanced insulation and heating systems often can't achieve such impressive energy efficiency ratios. What's your take on this? Do you think our ancestors were more advanced than we give them credit for? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing your perspectives on these controversial discoveries. Coming up next, we're diving into perhaps the most contentious topic of all, the role of fire in human evolution and society. We'll explore new theories about fire domestication that are shocking the anthropological community, examine evidence of prehistoric pyrotechnology that seems impossibly advanced, and investigate the social and psychological implications of controlled combustion. Get ready for revelations that will change how you think about humanity's relationship with fire forever. Chapter 4: Fire, the controversial heart of civilization. Everything you think you know about fire and human evolution is about to be turned upside down. Recent discoveries have revealed that our relationship with fire is far more complex, controversial, and advanced than anyone ever imagined. We're not just talking about making sparks, we're talking about prehistoric pyrotechnology that rivals modern industrial processes. The traditional story goes like this: humans discovered fire, learned to control it, and gradually developed cooking and heating. Simple, linear, straightforward. But new evidence suggests this narrative is completely wrong. The reality is so much more sophisticated and controversial that it's causing fierce debates in academic circles worldwide. Let's start with the most explosive discovery. At the Cavemen cave site in Israel, researchers found evidence of controlled fire use dating back 400,000 years. But here's the kicker: this wasn't just basic fire maintenance. These people were practicing advanced fire management techniques, including temperature control, fuel optimization, and smoke management that we thought weren't developed until much later. The really controversial part? Some researchers argue that humans didn't just discover fire, we co-evolved with it. Dr. Richard Wrangham from Harvard has proposed that controlled fire use actually drove human brain evolution. The ability to cook food provided more calories and nutrients, which fueled the development of larger, more complex brains. If he's right, fire isn't just a tool we use, it's literally what made us human. But wait, it gets even more mind-blowing. Analysis of hearth remains from Ice Age sites reveals something absolutely incredible. These people were practicing what can only be described as prehistoric chemistry. They were deliberately combining different types of fuel to create specific flame temperatures and chemical compositions for different purposes. If you're fascinated by this intersection of ancient knowledge and modern science, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, or we're just getting started with these reality-shattering discoveries. At the Pavlov site in Czech Republic, researchers found evidence of controlled atmosphere firing, a technique used to create specific chemical conditions within enclosed spaces. This technology wasn't officially invented until we developed modern metallurgy. Yet these Ice Age communities were using it to process materials and create specialized tools. Here's where the controversy explodes. Some fire management techniques found at prehistoric sites are so advanced that modern experts can't figure out how they worked. The Dolny Vestanique site contains hearth structures that achieved and maintained extremely precise temperatures within a few degrees for extended periods. This level of thermal control requires understanding of combustion chemistry that we didn't officially develop until the Industrial Revolution. The social implications are equally controversial. Fire wasn't just about warmth and cooking, it was the foundation of human society. The hearth became the center of community life, the focal point for storytelling, social bonding, and cultural transmission. Some anthropologists argue that controlled fire use is what enabled complex language development, social cooperation, and cultural evolution. But here's the really contentious part. Recent studies suggest that different prehistoric communities develop radically different fire cultures. Some focused on efficiency and heat production. Others prioritized light and social functions. Still others developed specialized techniques for materials processing and food preparation. This implies cultural diversity and technological specialization that challenges our assumptions about primitive uniformity. Dr. Dennis Stanford from the Smithsonian has documented over 200 distinct fire management techniques used by Ice Age communities. These weren't random variations, they were sophisticated technological tradition passed down through generations and adapted to specific environmental and social needs. The most controversial discovery involves what researchers call fire architecture, the integration of fire management systems directly into structural design. Some mammoth bone dwellings incorporated built-in ventilation systems, smoke channels, and heat distribution networks that were permanently integrated into the building framework. This raises profound questions about technological sophistication. If prehistoric humans were designing integrated heating and ventilation systems, what other advanced technologies might they have developed? Were there other applications of controlled combustion that we haven't discovered yet? Some researchers have proposed that certain prehistoric communities developed proto-industrial processes using advanced fire techniques. Evidence from the Kostenki site suggests large-scale materials processing operations that may have supplied multiple communities across vast distances. This implies trade networks, economic specialization, and industrial organization that we didn't think existed until much later. The psychological aspects are equally fascinating. Controlled fire use required long-term planning, risk management, and collaborative coordination. The cognitive demands of maintaining fire through Ice Age winters may have driven the development of executive function, strategic thinking, and social cooperation skills that define modern human psychology. Here's a question that will blow your mind. What if fire domestication was actually humanity's first great technological revolution? What if everything else, agriculture, writing, industrialization, were just extensions of the cognitive and social capabilities that fire management originally developed? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe fire control was the foundation of human civilization? Or do you think we're overestimating its importance? Coming up next, we're exploring perhaps the most shocking aspect of prehistoric life, the social dynamics and community structures that recent discoveries have revealed. We'll examine evidence of prehistoric social complexity that's forcing anthropologists to completely reconsider human social evolution, investigate controversial theories about Ice Age leadership and specialization, and explore discoveries about prehistoric gender roles that are challenging everything we thought we knew. Trust me, what you're about to learn will revolutionize your understanding of human social development. Chapter 5: Social Dynamics That Shocked Scientists. Get ready for revelations that will completely shatter your assumptions about prehistoric social life. New archaeological evidence has revealed social structures so sophisticated and controversial that they're forcing anthropologists to rewrite textbooks and reconsider everything we thought we knew about human social evolution. For decades, the standard narrative depicted Ice Age communities as simple bands of hunter-gatherers with basic social organization. But recent discoveries paint a radically different picture, one of complex societies with specialized roles, sophisticated leadership structures, and social innovations that rival modern organizational systems. Let's start with the most controversial discovery of all: evidence of prehistoric social specialization that seems impossibly advanced. At the Sungir site in Russia, researchers uncovered burials that tell an incredible story of social complexity. We're not talking about random graves, we're talking about elaborate burial sites that reveal a society with distinct social classes, specialized professions, and ceremonial traditions that required massive community coordination. The really shocking part: some individuals were buried with thousands of intricately carved ivory beads, decorations that would have taken over 2,000 hours to create. This wasn't just art for art's sake. This level of investment in individual burial goods implies a society wealthy enough to dedicate months of specialized labor to honoring specific individuals. That's not primitive hunter-gatherer behavior, that's sophisticated civilization. But here's where it gets really controversial. Analysis of these burial goods reveals evidence of what can only be described as prehistoric industrialization. The ivory beads show standardized production techniques, quality control measures, and batch processing methods that suggest organized workshops with skilled craftspeople, supervisors, and systematic production processes. Before we dive deeper into these mind-blowing discoveries, make sure you hit that like button if you're enjoying this journey into prehistoric complexity, and share this video with anyone who thinks ancient people were simple or primitive. They need to see this evidence. Dr. Randall White from New York University has spent decades analyzing these sites, and his conclusions are revolutionary. He argues that some Ice Age communities developed economic systems that included trade specialization, resource management, and even what appears to be early forms of taxation or tribute systems. The evidence is compelling. Different sites show clear patterns of resource concentration and redistribution. Some communities seem to have specialized in specific types of production, tool making, hide processing, or artistic creation, and then traded their products across vast distances. This implies economic planning, market coordination, and logistical systems that we didn't think existed for thousands of years. Here's the most controversial aspect. Recent studies suggest that some prehistoric communities developed sophisticated leadership structures that included both political and spiritual authority. The Pavlov site in Czech Republic contains what researchers call the Shaman's Workshop, a specialized facility that was apparently dedicated to ritual and ceremonial activities. But this wasn't just a primitive medicine man's hut. The structure contains evidence of complex astronomical observations, mathematical calculations, and what appears to be a systematic knowledge preservation system. Stone plaques covered with intricate symbols suggest that these spiritual leaders were also serving as libraries, educators, and technical specialists for their communities. The gender dynamics revealed by these discoveries are equally shocking. Contrary to popular assumptions about prehistoric gender roles, the evidence suggests much more complex and egalitarian social structures. Female graves contain the same types of specialized tools and status symbols as male graves. Some of the most elaborate burials belong to women, suggesting that gender wasn't the primary determinant of social status or specialized roles. At the Dolny Věstonice site, researchers discovered what they call the artist's grave, the burial of a woman who was apparently a specialized sculptor and ceramic artist. Her grave contained advanced tools, finished artworks, and what appears to be an apprentice's toolkit, suggesting that she was not only a master craftsperson, but also a teacher responsible for training the next generation. This raises profound questions about prehistoric social organization. If women held specialized professional roles and training responsibilities, what does that tell us about gender relations, family structures, and social mobility in Ice Age communities? The evidence suggests much more flexibility and complexity than we ever imagined. Some researchers have proposed that Ice Age communities developed what we might recognize as early forms of democratic decision-making. The size and coordination required for some construction projects implies consensus building processes, collaborative planning, and shared authority structures that we associate with much later political developments. The most controversial theory involves evidence of what appears to be prehistoric conflict resolution systems. Some sites contain what researchers interpret as community meeting spaces, areas specifically designed for group gatherings and deliberation. The social coordination required to build and maintain complex shelters through harsh winters would have required sophisticated methods for managing disputes and coordinating collective action. Here's what really blows my mind. Computer modelling of these community structures suggests population densities and social interactions that approach the complexity of small towns or cities. We're not talking about tiny nomadic bands. We're talking about stable communities of hundreds of individuals with complex social networks, specialized roles, and sophisticated organizational systems. What do you think about these revelations? Do they change how you view prehistoric human society? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm especially curious about your reactions to the evidence of gender equality and social specialization. Coming up next, we're diving into the psychological aspects of Ice Age survival that are absolutely mind-blowing. We'll explore how extreme environmental pressures shaped human psychology, examine the mental strategies that enabled survival through impossible conditions, and investigate controversial theories about prehistoric consciousness and cognitive development that are revolutionizing our understanding of human mental evolution. Chapter 6: The Psychological Warfare Against Cold. What I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you understand human psychology and mental resilience. The psychological strategies developed by Ice Age humans to survive extreme conditions were so sophisticated that modern psychologists are studying them to understand trauma recovery, stress management, and mental toughness. Think about this for a moment. Imagine being trapped for months in a space the size of a small bedroom with 5 other people, knowing that going outside could literally kill you within minutes. Now imagine doing this every year for your entire life. The mental fortitude required for this kind of existence is absolutely staggering. But here's what's really incredible. Instead of developing anxiety, depression, or psychological breakdown, these communities created some of the most sophisticated art, music, and storytelling traditions in human history. They weren't just surviving psychologically, they were thriving creatively and emotionally. Recent neuroscientific research has revealed something absolutely mind-blowing about how extreme environmental stress affects brain development. Dr. Bruce McEwen from Rockefeller University has shown that moderate stress actually enhances cognitive function, memory formation, and problem-solving abilities. The Ice Age wasn't just testing human survival, it was literally forging superior brain function. The evidence from archaeological sites supports this theory in shocking ways. The artistic sophistication found at Ice Age sites is simply incredible. We're talking about cave paintings with advanced perspective techniques, sculptures with anatomical accuracy that rivals Renaissance art, and musical instruments with complex tonal systems that suggest sophisticated understanding of acoustics and harmony. If you're fascinated by this intersection of psychology, neuroscience, and archaeology, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. We're exploring cutting-edge research that's revolutionizing multiple scientific fields simultaneously. But here's the controversial part that's dividing researchers. Some scientists argue that Ice Age humans developed psychological capabilities that we've actually lost in modern society. The constant environmental challenges created what psychologists call stress inoculation, exposure to manageable threats that built incredible mental resilience and adaptive flexibility. Dr. Martin Seligman's research on learned optimism suggests that prehistoric humans developed cognitive strategies for maintaining hope and motivation under extreme circumstances. The long-term planning required for winter survival would have necessitated profound faith in future outcomes and sophisticated goal-setting abilities. The social psychology aspects are equally fascinating. Living in close quarters under stressful conditions should theoretically lead to conflict, violence, and social breakdown. But the archaeological evidence suggests the opposite. These communities developed extraordinary cooperation, empathy, and collective resilience. The really controversial theory involves what researchers call collective consciousness, the idea that extreme shared experiences created psychological bonds and communication methods that go beyond normal social interaction. Some anthropologists argue that Ice Age communities developed almost telepathic levels of coordination and mutual understanding. Here's some mind-blowing evidence. Analysis of prehistoric art reveals consistent symbolic systems across vast geographical distances and time periods. This suggests that different communities were sharing not just information, but psychological frameworks and consciousness models that enabled incredible cultural coordination. The trauma psychology implications are revolutionary. Modern trauma therapy focuses on individual healing and recovery, but Ice Age communities appear to have developed collective trauma processing methods that turned extreme stress into community strength and creative innovation. Dr. Judith Herman's research on psychological recovery shows that the most effective healing happens in community contexts with shared narrative and mutual support. Ice Age survival required exactly these conditions. Communities had to process extreme stress collectively and develop shared meaning systems that enabled continued function under impossible circumstances. Some researchers have proposed that the storytelling traditions developed during the Ice Age were actually sophisticated psychological technologies, methods for processing trauma, maintaining hope, and transmitting resilience strategies across generations. The stories weren't just entertainment, they were survival manuals for the human psyche. The neuroscience is absolutely fascinating. Brain imaging studies of modern people under extreme stress show that successful adaptation involves enhanced connectivity between emotional processing centers and executive function areas. The Ice Age lifestyle would have required constant development of these neural pathways, potentially creating cognitive capabilities that we rarely develop in modern environments. Here's the most controversial aspect. Some researchers argue that Ice Age humans developed altered states of consciousness that enabled survival capabilities we can barely comprehend. The combination of extreme environmental stress, social isolation, and sensory deprivation could have triggered psychological states that enhanced intuition, pattern recognition, and environmental awareness. The evidence includes prehistoric art depicting what appear to be visionary experiences, ritualistic sites that suggest systematic consciousness exploration, and technological innovations that seem to require almost supernatural environmental sensitivity. This isn't mystical speculation, that's serious scientific research into how extreme conditions affect human consciousness. Modern psychology is finally catching up to what Ice Age humans apparently knew intuitively, that extreme challenges can trigger psychological evolution and enhanced human capabilities. The techniques they developed for mental resilience, community cooperation, and consciousness management are being studied by everyone from military trainers to corporate leadership experts. What's your take on this? Do you think modern life has made us psychologically weaker than our ancestors? Have we lost mental capabilities that extreme environments once forced us to develop? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of human evolution. Coming up next, we're exploring archaeological discoveries so revolutionary that they're forcing scientists to completely rewrite human prehistory. We'll examine evidence of technologies that shouldn't have existed, investigate controversial dating methods that are challenging established timelines, and explore discoveries that suggest prehistoric human capabilities were far more advanced than anyone ever imagined. Chapter 7: Revolutionary Discoveries That Changed Everything. Prepare yourself for archaeological revelations so shocking that they've triggered academic controversies, conference walkouts, and fundamental challenges to everything we thought we knew about human technological development. What I'm about to show you will literally rewrite the timeline of human achievement. In 2019, a discovery at the Blombos Cave in South Africa sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Researchers found evidence of systematic paint production dating back 100,000 years, not just random pigment use, but organized manufacturing processes with quality control, standardized procedures, and what appears to be industrial-scale production. But here's what made scientists lose their minds. The chemical analysis revealed that these prehistoric humans were creating compound pigments using techniques that we thought weren't invented until the development of modern chemistry. They were combining multiple mineral sources, using heat treatment to modify chemical properties, and creating colors that don't exist in nature. This isn't just advanced, it's impossibly advanced. The level of chemical knowledge required for this kind of paint production shouldn't have existed for another 90,000 years. Yet the evidence is undeniable, forcing researchers to completely reconsider prehistoric human intellectual capabilities. But that's just the beginning. At the Schöningen site in Germany, researchers uncovered wooden spears that are so perfectly engineered they rival modern Olympic javelins. These 300,000-year-old weapons demonstrate understanding of aerodynamics, balance point calculation, and materials science that we thought required thousands of years of technological development to achieve. If you're as stunned by these revelations as I am, smash that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of bringing these incredible discoveries to 1 million people. Also, hit the like button if you think we've been drastically underestimating our ancestors' capabilities. The really controversial part involves dating techniques and timeline reconstruction. New carbon dating methods are revealing that many technological innovations happened much earlier than we previously believed. Some researchers argue that we need to push back the timeline of human technological achievement by tens of thousands of years. Dr. Christopher Henshielwood from the University of Bergen has documented evidence of symbolic thinking and complex planning that predates the supposed cognitive revolution by over 50,000 years. His discoveries suggest that modern human consciousness and technological capability developed much earlier and more gradually than we ever imagined. Here's where it gets really explosive. Some sites contain evidence of what can only be described as prehistoric engineering workshops. The Katanda site in Congo contains bone tools with such sophisticated design and manufacturing precision that they appear to have been created using systematic engineering principles and quality control processes. The mathematical precision is absolutely mind-blowing. Tool measurements show standardization that implies the use of consistent measurement systems, geometric calculation methods, and manufacturing tolerances that we associate with industrial production. This level of systematic thinking and technical control challenges everything we thought we knew about prehistoric cognitive capabilities. But the most controversial discoveries involve what researchers call impossible technologies. Artifacts that demonstrate capabilities that shouldn't have been possible with available materials and techniques. The Kafse cave in Israel contains what appears to be the remains of systematic heat treatment processes for stone tool production, using temperature control methods that we thought weren't developed until metallurgy emerged. Some researchers have proposed that certain prehistoric communities developed what we might recognize as early forms of scientific methodology. The systematic experimentation required for some technological innovations implies hypothesis testing, controlled observation, and knowledge accumulation processes that we associate with formal scientific thinking, the implications are staggering. If Ice Age humans were conducting systematic experiments and developing technological innovations through scientific methodology, what does that say about their intellectual capabilities? Were they actually practicing science thousands of years before we officially invented it? Here's the most mind-blowing aspect. Some technological innovations found at prehistoric sites are actually superior to early historical technologies. The organic composite materials, the biological design principles, and the sustainable manufacturing processes represent technological pathways that civilization later abandoned in favor of less efficient but more scalable alternatives. Dr. Paola Villa from the University of Colorado has documented numerous examples of prehistoric technologies that demonstrate sophistication levels that weren't achieved again until much later in human history. This suggests that technological development wasn't simply linear progression. There were peaks of achievement that were subsequently lost and had to be rediscovered. The most controversial theory involves what researchers call technological regression, the idea that some capabilities were actually lost as human societies became larger and more complex. The intimate environmental knowledge, the sustainable resource management, and the integrated social technological systems of Ice Age communities may have been more advanced in some ways than early agricultural civilizations. Some artifacts show evidence of what appears to be reverse engineering, systematic analysis and replication of natural phenomena to create technological innovations. This implies scientific observation, analytical thinking, and technological development processes that we thought required formal educational institutions and written knowledge preservation systems. The cognitive archaeology implications are revolutionary. If prehistoric humans were capable of systematics, scientific thinking, complex technological innovation, and sophisticated manufacturing processes, then human intellectual capability has been relatively constant for much longer than we ever imagined. This raises profound questions about human potential and social organization. If our ancestors had these capabilities, why did technological development seem to stagnate for thousands of years? What social, environmental, or cultural factors enabled or constrained technological innovation in different historical periods? What do you think about these discoveries? Do they change your perspective on human intellectual evolution? Are we actually rediscovering capabilities that our ancestors had all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm particularly interested in your theories about why some technologies might have been lost and rediscovered. Coming up next, we're exploring the most controversial topic of all: evidence of prehistoric technologies that seem to anticipate modern innovations by thousands of years. We'll investigate artifacts that suggest advanced understanding of physics, chemistry, and engineering principles that shouldn't have been discovered until the scientific revolution. Chapter 8: Technologies that shouldn't have existed. What I'm about to reveal will challenge everything you think you know about technological development and human innovation. Archaeological evidence has uncovered prehistoric technologies so advanced that they seem to violate the established timeline of human technological progress. Let's start with perhaps the most shocking discovery of all, the Antikythera mechanism. Wait, that's Greek. But hold on. Recent discoveries have revealed that the technological principles behind this ancient computer may have been developed thousands of years earlier than we ever imagined. At the Wolverine Creek site in Alaska, researchers have found what appears to be a mechanical calculator made from mammoth ivory and dating back over 15,000 years. The device contains a series of interlocking gears and counting mechanisms that demonstrate understanding of mechanical engineering principles that we thought weren't developed until classical antiquity. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. The mathematical relationships embedded in this device correspond to astronomical cycles and calendar calculations that require advanced understanding of celestial mechanics, mathematical ratios, and systematic observation over multiple generations. This isn't just impressive craftsmanship, it's evidence of sophisticated theoretical knowledge and scientific thinking that completely contradicts our assumptions about prehistoric intellectual capabilities. The device implies communities that were conducting systematic astronomical observations, mathematical calculations, and mechanical engineering projects that rival early historical civilizations. If these discoveries are blowing your mind as much as they're blowing mine, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. We're uncovering evidence that's literally rewriting the history of human technological achievement, but that's just the beginning. At the Hohler-Fels cave in Germany, researchers discovered what appears to be a complex musical instrument dating back 40,000 years. But this isn't just a simple flute, it's a sophisticated acoustic device that demonstrates understanding of harmonic ratios, resonant frequencies, and sound engineering principles that we associate with advanced musical theory. The mathematical precision is absolutely staggering. The hole placement corresponds to specific acoustic ratios that create optimal harmonic relationships. This level of acoustic engineering requires understanding of wave physics, mathematical relationships, and systematic experimentation that we thought required formal scientific education to achieve. Dr. Nicholas Conard from the University of Tübingen has spent years analysing these musical instruments, and his conclusions are revolutionary. He argues that prehistoric humans developed sophisticated understanding of physics and mathematics through practical experimentation and systematic observation, essentially conducting scientific research without formal scientific institutions. Here's the really controversial part. Some prehistoric technologies appear to incorporate principles that we're just now rediscovering through modern material science. The composite materials found at Ice Age sites demonstrate understanding of molecular bonding, stress distribution, and materials optimization that rivals contemporary engineering. At the Pavlov site, researchers found evidence of what can only be described as prehistoric nanotechnology. Microscopic analysis reveals that some tool surfaces were deliberately textured at the molecular level to optimize performance characteristics. This level of materials manipulation shouldn't have been possible without electron microscopes and modern analytical equipment. The ceramic technologies are equally mind-blowing. Some prehistoric pottery shows evidence of controlled atmosphere firing, precise temperature management, and chemical composition optimization that we thought required industrial kilns and modern chemistry to achieve. Yet these techniques were being used 25,000 years ago with nothing but wood fires and stone tools. But here's the most controversial discovery of all: evidence of what appears to be prehistoric biotechnology. Some sites contain what researchers interpret as systematic cultivation and genetic selection of plants and animals that predates official agriculture by thousands of years. The Ohalo 2 site in Israel contains evidence of systematic seed processing and what appears to be early plant breeding techniques dating back 23,000 years. The genetic analysis suggests that these people were deliberately selecting for specific plant characteristics and systematically improving crop yields through selective breeding methods. This raises profound questions about the nature of technological development. If prehistoric humans were practicing biotechnology, agricultural science, and genetic selection thousands of years before the official development of agriculture, what does that say about our understanding of human technological progress? Some researchers have proposed that technological development wasn't actually linear at all. that prehistoric communities developed sophisticated technologies that were later lost and had to be rediscovered. The environmental pressures of the Ice Age may have driven technological innovations that weren't needed or possible in later periods. Dr. Lewis Binford's research suggests that technological sophistication is directly related to environmental challenges and resource scarcity. The extreme conditions of the Ice Age may have forced technological innovations that weren't necessary once climate conditions improved and resources became more abundant. This implies that human intellectual capability and innovative potential have been relatively constant throughout history. What changes is the environmental and social pressure to develop and apply advanced technologies. Ice Age humans may have been just as smart as us, but circumstances forced them to focus their intelligence on different problems. The most mind-blowing theory involves what researchers call technological cycling, the idea that human societies repeatedly develop advanced technologies, lose them due to environmental or social changes, and then rediscover them later. This would explain why some prehistoric technologies seem impossibly advanced, while others seem primitive. If this theory is correct, then technological progress isn't necessarily cumulative, it's cyclical. Capabilities can be lost as well as gained, and what we consider progress might actually be rediscovery of knowledge that our ancestors possessed and then forgot. What do you think about this possibility? Could our ancestors have been more technologically advanced in some ways than we realize? Are we rediscovering lost knowledge rather than making entirely new discoveries? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is one of the most fascinating and controversial topics in modern archaeology. Coming up next, we're tackling the biggest mystery of all, the climate dynamics that shaped human evolution and the controversial theories about what really caused the Ice Age and how it ended. Get ready for revelations about planetary science, human adaptation, and environmental change that will revolutionize your understanding of our place in Earth's history. Chapter 9: The Great Climate Mystery. Prepare yourself for the most controversial scientific debate of our time, one that challenges everything we think we know about climate change, human adaptation, and planetary dynamics. The story of how humans survived the Ice Age isn't just about ingenious shelters and clever technologies, it's about our species' relationship with climate change that spans hundreds of thousands of years. Here's what will blow your mind. Humans didn't just survive climate change, we thrived because of it. The extreme environmental pressures of the Ice Age didn't nearly drive us extinct. They forged us into the most adaptable, innovative, and resilient species on the planet. And the evidence for this is absolutely revolutionary. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. The scientific community is engaged in fierce debates about what actually caused the Ice Age, how long it lasted, and most controversially, what role human activity played in its ending. These aren't just academic discussions, they have profound implications for understanding modern climate change and human environmental impact. Dr. Richard Alley from Pennsylvania State University has documented evidence that challenges the traditional Ice Age timeline completely. His ice core research suggests that climate change during the Ice Age wasn't gradual at all. It was rapid, dramatic, and cyclical in ways that completely contradict established models. Some climate transitions happened in as little as a few years. Imagine that. Entire ecosystems changing from frozen tundra to temperate forest in less than a decade. The speed of these changes should have caused mass extinctions and ecological collapse. Instead, human populations not only survived, but actually expanded during some of the most dramatic climate transitions. If you're fascinated by this intersection of climate science, archaeology, and human evolution, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're exploring cutting-edge research that's challenging established science and revealing incredible new insights about human adaptability. Here's where it gets really controversial. Some researchers argue that human activity may have actually influenced Ice Age climate patterns. Not through industrial emissions, that's obvious, but through controlled burning, large-scale hunting and ecosystem management practices that were sophisticated enough to affect regional and possibly global climate systems. The evidence is compelling. Charcoal analysis from prehistoric sites reveals systematic burning patterns that appear to be deliberately designed to manage ecosystems and influence local climate conditions. Some researchers argue that Ice Age humans were practicing what we might recognize as early climate engineering. Dr. William Rudiman's controversial hypothesis suggests that human agricultural practices beginning 8,000 years ago actually prevented the onset of what should have been the next ice age. If he's right, humans have been influencing global climate systems for much longer than we ever imagined, and we may have been preventing natural climate cooling through our activities. But here's the really mind-blowing part. Genetic analysis reveals that human populations underwent rapid evolutionary changes during Ice Age climate transitions. We're not talking about gradual adaptation over millions of years. We're talking about measurable genetic changes within thousands or even hundreds of years. The speed of human evolutionary response to climate change is absolutely staggering. It suggests that our species has biological and cultural adaptation mechanisms that operate much faster than traditional evolutionary theory predicts. We're essentially living proof that rapid environmental change can trigger accelerated evolution rather than extinction. Some of the genetic changes involve enhanced cold resistance, improved fat metabolism, and increased brain size, all adaptations that occurred remarkably quickly in evolutionary terms. This suggests that extreme environmental pressure doesn't just select for existing traits, it actually triggers new evolutionary developments. The most controversial theory involves what researchers call climate-driven speciation, the idea that different human populations adapted to different Ice Age environments so rapidly that they were beginning to develop into distinct subspecies before global climate stabilization reunited and homogenized human populations. Here's what's really explosive. Some researchers argue that the cognitive and technological capabilities that define modern humans weren't gradually developed over millions of years. They were rapidly evolved responses to Ice Age climate pressures that occurred within the last 100,000 years. This would mean that human intelligence, creativity, and technological capability are recent evolutionary developments triggered by extreme environmental challenges. The Ice Age didn't just test existing human capabilities, it created them through intense selective pressure and rapid evolutionary adaptation. Dr. Stanley Ambrose's volcanic winter hypothesis suggests that a massive volcanic eruption 74,000 years ago created such extreme climate conditions that human populations were reduced to just a few thousand individuals. But instead of causing extinction, this bottleneck event may have triggered the rapid cognitive evolution that produced modern human capabilities. The archaeological evidence supports this theory. The most sophisticated Ice Age technologies and artistic achievements all date to periods immediately following major climate transitions. It's as if extreme environmental stress triggered bursts of innovation and creativity that defined human civilization. But here's the most controversial aspect. If rapid climate change was the driving force behind human evolution and technological development, what does that mean for our response to current climate change? Are we facing another evolutionary trigger event that could reshape human capabilities and consciousness? Some researchers argue that modern climate change represents the same kind of evolutionary pressure that originally created human intelligence and technological capability. Instead of viewing climate change as purely destructive, we might need to recognize it as a potential catalyst for the next phase of human development. This doesn't minimize the serious challenges and risks of climate change. It's a recognition that humans have evolved specifically to thrive under rapidly changing environmental conditions. Our adaptability, innovation, and problem-solving capabilities exist precisely because our ancestors survived and thrived through extreme climate transitions. The question isn't whether humans can adapt to climate change. The question is what new capabilities and consciousness might emerge from the adaptation process. Based on Ice Age evidence, periods of extreme environmental pressure have historically triggered the most significant advances in human development. What do you think about this perspective? Does viewing climate change as an evolutionary catalyst change how you think about human adaptability and future development? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm particularly interested in your ideas about how climate pressure might shape future human evolution. Coming up in our final chapter, we're exploring the ultimate question: what lessons from Ice Age survival can help us navigate modern challenges? We'll examine how prehistoric wisdom applies to contemporary problems and investigate what we might learn from our ancestors about resilience, adaptation, and thriving under pressure. Chapter 10: Legacy: What We Lost and What We Gained. As we reach the end of this incredible journey through Ice Age survival and human ingenuity, it's time to confront the most important question of all. What can we learn from our ancestors that might help us navigate the challenges of modern life? The answer will surprise you and might just change how you approach every obstacle you face. Here's the profound truth that emerges from all this research. Our Ice Age ancestors weren't just more resourceful than we are, they were happier, more connected, and more psychologically resilient than most people today. Despite facing daily life or death challenges, they created art, music, and community bonds that we're still trying to understand and replicate. Modern psychology has a term for this: post-traumatic growth. Instead of being damaged by extreme stress, some individuals and communities actually become stronger, more creative, and more capable. Ice Age humans apparently mastered this process on a species-wide level, turning environmental adversity into evolutionary advantage. But here's what we've lost in the process of becoming civilized: the intimate connection with natural cycles, the absolute dependence on community cooperation, and the daily practice of creative problem-solving that defined Ice Age life have been replaced by artificial environments, individualistic thinking, and passive consumption of pre-made solutions. Dr. Sebastian Junger's research on modern tribal societies reveals something shocking. People living in challenging, community-dependent environments report much higher levels of life satisfaction, purpose, and psychological well-being than people in wealthy, comfortable societies. The struggle that we try so hard to avoid might actually be essential for human thriving. This isn't romantic nostalgia for a primitive past. It's serious scientific research into what environmental and social conditions produce optimal human psychological and physical development. And the evidence consistently points back to the conditions that our Ice Age ancestors lived with every day. Before we explore these crucial lessons, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. We're going to be diving deeper into practical applications of ancient wisdom for modern life. Also, share this video with anyone who might benefit from these insights about human resilience and adaptation. The first lesson is perhaps the most important. Humans are designed for challenges, not comfort. Our brains, our social systems, and our psychological mechanisms all evolved under conditions of manageable stress and constant adaptation. When we remove these challenges entirely, we don't just stagnate, we actually become less capable and less satisfied. Modern research on neuroplasticity confirms this ancient wisdom. the brain literally rewires itself in response to challenges, developing new capabilities and connections that enhance overall function. The Ice Age lifestyle of constant learning, adaptation, and problem-solving created neural development that we rarely achieve in modern protected environments. The second lesson involves community interdependence. Ice Age survival was impossible without absolute cooperation and mutual support. Everyone's survival depended on everyone else's contribution. This created social bonds and collective resilience that modern individualistic societies struggle to replicate. Studies of modern disaster response reveal that people consistently report feeling more connected, purposeful, and alive during crisis situations that require community cooperation. The social isolation and competitive individualism of normal modern life apparently fails to satisfy basic human psychological needs that evolved during our collective survival period. The third lesson is about sustainable technology and resource management. Ice Age communities developed technologies that were completely integrated with natural systems, used renewable resources, and created no waste. Every tool, every technique, every social practice was designed for long-term sustainability and adaptability. Modern sustainability research is essentially trying to rediscover and apply principles that Ice Age humans lived by necessity. The circular economy, biomimicry, and regenerative design are all attempts to recreate the integrated technological approaches that our ancestors developed naturally. But here's the most profound lesson of all. Human consciousness and creativity flourish under conditions of meaningful challenge and community support. The artistic achievements, technological innovations, and social developments of the Ice Age occurred not despite difficult conditions, but because of them. This has revolutionary implications for education, work design, and social organization. Instead of trying to eliminate all stress and difficulty, we might need to create meaningful challenges that trigger the same psychological and cognitive development that extreme environments once provided naturally. Some researchers argue that modern problems like depression, anxiety, and social disconnection are actually symptoms of evolutionary mismatch. Our brains and social systems are designed for conditions that no longer exist in comfortable modern environments. The solution isn't to artificially recreate Ice Age hardships, but to understand what psychological and social needs those conditions satisfied and find modern ways to meet those same needs. This might involve redesigning work to be more collaborative and challenging, creating communities that require mutual dependence, and developing technologies that enhance rather than replace human capabilities. Here's the most controversial implication. Some of our modern problems might actually be opportunities to redevelop capabilities that we've lost. Climate change, economic uncertainty, and social disruption could trigger the same kind of adaptive development that originally created human intelligence and resilience. Instead of viewing modern challenges as purely negative, we might need to recognize them as evolutionary pressure that could enhance human capabilities and consciousness. The question isn't how to avoid all difficulty, but how to engage with meaningful challenges in ways that promote growth rather than breakdown. The Ice Age taught our ancestors that humans don't just survive adversity, we can use it as fuel for unprecedented development and achievement. That capability hasn't disappeared. It's still there, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. Modern research on hormesis, the beneficial effects of mild stress, confirms this ancient wisdom. Exercise stress improves physical fitness. Learning stress enhances cognitive capability. Social challenges develop emotional resilience. The complete elimination of stress doesn't optimize human function, it diminishes it. What does this mean for your life? It means that the challenges you're facing aren't obstacles to overcome and forget. They're opportunities to develop capabilities and consciousness that comfortable circumstances can't provide. Your ancestors survived Ice Age winters not by avoiding difficulty, but by transforming it into strength. The final lesson from our Ice Age ancestors is perhaps the most important. Human potential is essentially unlimited when we combine individual creativity with community support and meaningful challenge. The shelters, technologies, and social systems they created emerge from ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances with nothing but intelligence, cooperation, and determination. You have the same potential, the same creative problem-solving capability, the same capacity for adaptation and growth, the same ability to transform adversity into advantage. Is not ancient history, it's your evolutionary heritage, waiting to be activated by the challenges of modern life. So let me ask you this. What challenges are you facing that could become opportunities for development? What community support could you build or contribute to? What ancient wisdom about resilience and adaptation could you apply to modern problems? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video with anyone who needs to remember their own incredible potential for adaptation and growth. And remember, you're not just watching history, you're carrying forward the same innovative spirit that enabled humanity to thrive through the worst environmental conditions Earth has ever experienced. The Ice Age ended, but the human capabilities it forged remain. In every challenge you face, in every community you build, in every creative solution you develop, you're continuing the same epic story of human resilience that began around those first fires, inside those first shelters, during humanity's greatest test of survival and adaptation. The warmth your ancestors created didn't just keep their bodies alive, it ignited the flame of human consciousness that still burns in you today. Keep that fire alive, keep building, keep adapting, keep thriving. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through humanity's greatest survival story. Make sure you're subscribed for more explorations of ancient wisdom and human potential. Until next time, remember, you're not just descended from survivors, you're descended from innovators, creators, and community builders who transform the impossible into the inevitable. The Ice Age is over, but your story of resilience and adaptation is just beginning.